Hello and welcome to another sunny day in Thailand. I'm going to flash way back to my September to December 2021 road trip in the Tesla Model Y and talk about the convenience and cost of taking a Tesla on a 14,379 mile road trip around America and Canada. This is turning out to be quite the information-packed extravaganza, so hold on. Please feed the YouTube algorithm by giving the video a like. If you want to see more like this, click subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. If you want to chip in on my expenses, I now have Patreon and YouTube memberships. Let's start by looking at the big picture when owning an electric vehicle, or EVs as the cool kids call them. Everybody asks, how far can I go and how can I charge it up? The impact of these factors can be minimized if you're using the car around your town or commuting to work. Wait, does anybody do that anymore? Nearly every modern EV can give you multiple days of local driving, and you can charge up at home, at work, while shopping, or at a local public charging station. Things get very complicated, however, when you set out away from home. Gas stations have reached an acceptable level of penetration for internal combustion engine vehicles, or ICE vehicles as they're called, to pretty much go wherever they want. With 4 gas stations at a single intersection, some say too much. This article from Electrek says there are nearly 108,000 EV charging plugs in America, while there are about 110 to 150,000 gas pumps. EV plugs are going to quickly pass gas pump numbers, making it better for every EV owner. And did you know that gas stations, or convenience stores as they're now called, make all of their profits off of selling you ho-hos and ding-dongs and 128-ounce cups of sugary water? They might make a penny per gallon on the actual fuel. So I'm waiting for the day when huge numbers of these stations convert to EV charging convenience stores. Before we jump in too far, we have to define charging types, power levels, and connectors. Think of it as the gasoline and diesel of the EV world. I'm going to limit my discussion to North America to keep things relatively simple. Power can be delivered to your EV as AC or DC. This power war goes all the way back to the Nikola Tesla-Thomas Edison battle. Power is measured in watts. You'll know this from buying light bulbs. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts, and roughly the power it takes to heat up a clothes iron. So that may help you imagine the kind of juice going into your battery. The higher the kilowatt rating of the charger, the faster your car charges, and you can be on your way. On a road trip, charging time can be a joy or an unrelenting burden. AC charging starts at level 1. This is a standard 120 volt plug in your wall. This works out to be about 1.8 kilowatts, which is just tiny. You'll only get about 4 miles of added range per hour, so this is only viable if you can deal with many hours of waiting time. Level 2 is a 240 volt circuit with higher current flow, like your electric dryer plug with that strange connector. This plug runs at about 10 kilowatts, which is a major boost in power. This is what most people use when they put an EV charging box in their garage, and you can typically fill up overnight and drive away with a full tank of electrons. It's as easy as plugging in your smartphone while you sleep. AC power in your house is by nature low because of the capacity of the feed from the street, your circuit breaker and wires, but also because your vehicle has to have an onboard AC to DC converter box, which then charges your DC battery. These converters are large and expensive, and you have to haul them around inside your car everywhere you go. You don't know it's there, but it is. For level 3, we move to DC charging. You won't have DC capability at your house, but it has massively more power potential because it directly injects straight into your battery with no conversion electronics in the way to slow it down. Modern battery packs have very high voltage and current capabilities. DC systems are rated from 50 to 250 kilowatts are common, with 350 kilowatts on the horizon. Your vehicle will talk with the charger to determine the optimal charging rate all through your charge period. A 50 kilowatt charge will take about 1.5 hours on an average EV, 150 kilowatts at about 45 minutes, and 250 kilowatts at about 25 minutes. There are two major DC charging standards as of 2022, Tesla and CCS2. The small Tesla plug can take AC or DC into the same connector. CCS2 was obviously designed by a committee and has an AC connector on the top and a high-powered DC plug on the bottom, hence how huge and ugly it is. In an ironic twist, when driving, the DC power from your battery is converted to AC, which is then fed to your AC motor. This conversion, however, is highly efficient and extremely high power. Sadly, there is no such thing as an AC battery. Every modern EV has one or more AC motors. Okay, let's get back to the convenience of long-distance EV driving. Locations where EVs can charge are still in the pioneer stage of development. However, with only about 4% of all vehicles in America being pure EVs, a massive number of stations is not yet necessary. But if you're on a road trip, stations need to be located at regular distances along the major highways and also scattered throughout cities and towns. It's the whole chicken and egg thing again. And by the way, the egg was first in animals that preceded the chicken in evolution by millions of years. You've heard of dinosaur eggs, right? Glad we could clear that up. Tesla is the clear EV market leader in the world right now with almost 2 million cars sold. One of Tesla's earliest realizations is that you have to make a great EV, but you also have to make a great charging network, or the whole concept to converting the world to sustainable energy and transportation just doesn't work. Hence, the Tesla Supercharger network was launched on September 24th, 2012, which is nearly 10 years ago, a massive amount of time in the EV world. I live just north of one of the very first Supercharger locations in Atascadero, California, on the road between LA and San Francisco. Worldwide, now, there are over 3,500 Tesla Supercharger locations with a total of over 32,000 charging plugs. That's one plug for every 62 Teslas ever built, which is an astoundingly awesome number compared to gas cars and gas pumps. As you can see on the map, the charging stations are placed strategically to follow the major highways, bringing worry-free long-distance travel. And when you plug the cable into your car is instantly recognized and your credit card on file is automatically billed. You simply drive in, plug in, charge, unplug, and drive away. Tesla has introduced several charging power levels over time, starting with 90 kilowatts, then expanding to 150 kilowatts, and now maxing out at 250, although 324 kilowatts or higher in 2022 is rumored. Tesla has also introduced an urban charging station at 72 kilowatts, designed for longer charge time while you're shopping or dining out. Yet another type of charger is the destination charger, a slower AC system you can find at homes or hotels or other places where multi-hour charging is okay. Your charging time is directly related to the power level of your plug, how much you want to charge, and the charge curve of your battery pack. We talked earlier about power levels, but how much you want to charge is completely up to you. If you're on a road trip, you'll likely want to charge to get you to the next charging station with some safety margin. However, you don't normally want to charge to 100% every time because it's stressing your battery pack, and also that the power the battery accepts drops off as you get closer to a full charge. It's like if I challenge you to fill up a glass of water as fast as you can, but don't spill a drop. You naturally need to slow down as you approach the brim. Batteries are roughly the same idea. One staggeringly useful feature in Tesla cars is when you're on a road trip and you put in your final destination into the navigation system. It will tell you exactly where to charge and for how long along your route down to the minute. It minimizes the amount of time you're stopped, but ensures you safely reach your final destination. It also shows the number of plugs at each location and how many are currently in use or out of order. On a long day on my road trip, I found I charged from 15 to 30 minutes at each stop. This is fantastic because it gives you just enough time to use the bathroom, stretch your legs, get something to eat and drink, and then you're on your way again. I bet if you timed a stop at a gas station, you'd be there for at least 10 minutes to fill up, then bathroom and food. So the EV penalty is really not a deal breaker. When you're charging, you really want your stop to be walking distance to bathrooms and food, without question. Nearly every Tesla Supercharger I stopped at has met this requirement. Tesla Supercharger stations in North America have between 4 and 56 plugs. Yes, 56 plugs in Firebaugh, California, with an average of about 10 plugs per location. There's also a 72 plug station in Shanghai. On my whole trip, out of 112 charges, I think I had to wait 3 times for an available plug. Tesla has implemented an idle charge that starts 5 minutes after your car has finished charging. This incentivizes people to watch their charge progress on the Tesla app on their phone, unplug, and drive away, which sustains the maximum availability of plugs. Tesla watches the statistics and decides where to install new chargers based on local demand, so it's only getting better. Every week, there are about 10 new charging locations installed around the world. The Now You Know YouTube channel and website host a Supercharger review map where Tesla drivers can make a video review of any location around the world. This can help to bring people to great locations and warn them of things like missing amenities at others. I did a video review of every location I stopped at, and I'll be editing and uploading them there soon. Now, let's look at other EV manufacturers' charging networks. Oh, sorry, they don't have any. Every other EV vendor is depending on third-party charging companies to get your vehicle charged and on its way. On the plus side, this leads to some competition for your charge session, and capitalistic choice is generally good for consumers, but these networks are still in their infancy. Their locations are very widely spaced and have a small number of plugs at each site. I saw a handful of third-party chargers co-located with superchargers at sites, and they mostly only had 2 plugs. That's a real burden when the third car shows up, or one or both plugs are broken. With low-power chargers and low number of plugs, chances are much higher that you'll have to wait on other vehicles to finish. Apps like PlugShare can help you locate chargers along your trip, and some EVs have charging maps built in, but they're not frequently updated or complete with every charging network. This is exemplified at my home here in Thailand. A new charging station was just installed at one of our shopping malls, but it only offers 2 plugs at 125 kilowatts. Let's take a look at the other charging companies. Electrify America and Electrify Canada were created by a judge's order as part of the Volkswagen Dieselgate scandal fine of $2 billion in North America. EA has more than 700 charging locations and over 3,000 plugs installed as of November 2020. Strangely, due to the judge's spending mandate, they're actually not incentivized to maintain it in peak shape or expand it further once that $2 billionth is spent. Electrify America was recently awarded Best Charging Network by a company called Umlaut, narrowly edging out the Tesla Supercharger network on what I think were several flawed metrics. But read the article and judge for yourself. Worldwide charging networks like ChargePoint, EVgo, Ionity, Blink, and more than a dozen smaller companies are paving the way for widespread EV adoption. Even gas and oil companies like Shell and BP are getting into the EV charging business because they can see the writing on the wall, with governments around the world setting near-term deadlines for the end of gas vehicle sales. One of the magic things with Tesla is you stick in the plug, charge up, unplug, and drive away. Every other charging network requires that you sign up for a membership and install a smartphone app, scan a QR code, swipe your credit card, or wave an RFID tag to tell the charger who you are and establish a payment method. Some offer a flat monthly membership payment to get discounted charge rates, or they're tied in with an EV manufacturer's discount offering, which limits where you can get a cheaper charge. Horror stories abound from people who weren't members and tried to sign up while standing in front of the charger, or they just couldn't get the charger to start working, and that leads to a black eye for the whole EV push. It's likely that you'll need to join most or all of the networks in order to have the best experience pulling up to a random charger location. The industry has figured out they need to fix this problem, so the plug and charge standard is being introduced, which allows the charger and the car to talk automatically, just like Tesla has done for 10 years. The issue now is that chargers have to be upgraded and cars have to have the feature added, so this leaves a lot of existing chargers and cars incompatible with the new system. Don't get me wrong, I think every EV on the road is a plus for humanity, and every charging plug is the key to making EVs viable. It's just that every other EV and charging station manufacturer is years behind Tesla. So to sum up, nothing currently comes even close to Tesla for an EV road trip, with charging station access, charging power, and speed, and ease of payment. Now that you're all experts in the logistics of EV charging, let's move to the cost of my road trip. I started in Nashville on September 18th and finished on November 28th. That's 72 days on the road with a total distance of 14,379 miles. That's an average of 200 miles per day, but of course some days were longer and some shorter. I'm getting my raw data from several sources. There's a great Tesla analysis platform called TeslaFi. You grant it secure access to your vehicle's data, and it collects and displays that data in an easy-to-use website for $5 a month. Of course, I forgot to turn it on until my 7th day on the road, so the data at the start of the trip is missing. I also downloaded all the Supercharger session data from Tesla, along with each charge on my credit card, so I can do a full correlation. Pricing for Tesla charging depends on the government jurisdiction of the location and power utility rules, as Tesla is considered to be a power seller. Some locations are charged by the minute, while most are charged in cents per kilowatt hour, which is the same way you're billed for electricity in your home. A single charging session can have minutes charged at different pricing levels. Looking at my charging sessions, I saw from as low as 12 cents per hour for low power charging to as high as $1.35 for Tier 4 and everything in between. One additional factor to remember is you're buying the handcrafted, organic, fat-free, gluten-free, vegan version of electricity here. You're paying for the convenience of having a high-power plug where you need it. So you get to pay for the cost of Tesla installing and maintaining the sites, along with a small profit on every charge. Charging at home will always be cheapest, but on the other hand, you don't have an oil refinery in your backyard, so you gotta buy gas somewhere in your ICE car. Since this pricing model is out of your hands, it's best to just pull in, fill up, and drive away. Slightly unlike gas stations where you can look around to save a few cents per gallon. It turns out that it's far cheaper than gas anyway, as we'll see. I first looked at the TeslaFi cost data, which doesn't show me what my cost was, only my savings. I must not have set it up properly, or it just can't get the cost data for each charge from Tesla's API. It's weird that it can tell me what I saved compared to some theoretical gas car, I suppose. So that data is no good for my costing purposes. Okay, Tesla helpfully allows you to download all your supercharging data in a CSV file. So what I did is I imported the 3 months worth into a LibreOffice Calc spreadsheet, did some sorting, did some hiding a bunch of junk that we don't need to see. And this is what it gives us. Basically, date and timestamp, which I've hidden, the location, and then the amount of energy we consumed, and then the pricing for that energy up to the final dollar amount. As you can see, we started in Knoxville. We'll take an example. I was there for 44 minutes, and it's broken that down into a Tier 1 and Tier 2 pricing model based on whatever rules are in effect for the Knoxville, Tennessee jurisdiction. Slight issue, 36 at tier 1 plus 4 at tier 2 is 40, not 44. I don't get that. If we calculate 12 cents per minute at tier 1 against 36 minutes, 23 cents a minute against tier 2, we get exactly $5.24. So did I get 4 free minutes, or what's going on? I don't know. But this is how you have to interpret it. I moved into North Carolina. North Carolina, in Asheville, they charge by energy, 40 kilowatt hours. Again, things aren't really adding up. My tier 1, I had 1 at no price, and I had 23 kilowatt hours at no price, but it seems to come down to this unit cost base. This plus this is only 24. Where did the rest of them go? I'll multiply that by 32, and somehow magically we end up with $12.80. That's better. So you can see some states and locations are energy, and then Mississippi, Louisiana, we're back into the minutes of charge. And you can see the pricing is pretty reasonable. I mean, it looks like I peaked out here at about $18 in Marathon, Florida. I sucked in 54 kilowatt hours, which is about 3/4 of a tank of electrons. So that's pretty good. Think about how much it would cost to fill up your gas tank 3/4 of the way. If we look down again, we're in kilowatt hours. We're in kilowatt hours. We're in Texas. We're in California. And then we cross into Canada right here. It looks like all of Canada is a per minute charge, which is fine if that's the pricing model, but it's not especially fair because, as you saw in the graphs before, your battery pack sucks in different amounts of energy at different points on the charge curve. So it's a bargain when you're sucking in at 250 kilowatts, but then after you curve down and you're only, say, at 30 kilowatts, it's charging you the same amount of money for that. So I don't know. I'm not sure I like that model. But then we pop back over into North Dakota's minutes, back and forth, back and forth. So let's look at the total here. I had 120 charges, according to Tesla, adding up to $1,373.14. Now, I've assumed Canadian dollars are American dollars down here. This is all Canadian dollars. I don't know if Tesla has already applied a calculation factor to make this come out in US dollars, or it's having my credit card company do that calculation. But we'll take $1,373.14 as our base for Tesla's self-reported charging costs for the entire trip. Okay, now let's pop over and look at what came through for the charges on my credit card. This is the thing that really matters because this is the money out of my pocket. The Tesla numbers could be a little off, but this is actually what I got charged, including exchange rates and foreign transaction fees from the bank. So I filtered out everything from my bank statement except for the Supercharger charges. And we go down here, and you can see we've changed over to Tesla Motors Canada as opposed to Tesla Supercharger. So these are the ones I'm getting exchange rate conversions on. Now let's look at the final numbers. $1,277.37. That is about $100 less than what I totaled up for the Tesla raw data, but I didn't convert Canadian dollars. So this is what I got charged. And we'll pull some more numbers from that. This also says I only got 114 charges that came through, as opposed to 120 listed on the Tesla, but I did get one free one in Lima, Ohio for some reason. So that would have been 119. So there are 5 charges that didn't come through. Maybe they didn't get time-stamped right. I don't know what's going on, but it's close enough. So that makes the average charge cost $11.21, which is really low compared to if you were filling up your car with gas. Even half a tank, you're putting more than $11.21. And I'm getting 126 miles per charge for that $11.21. And since I drove 14,379 miles, that works out to 9 cents per mile. Now, that's actually a little bit high. But again, we're paying for barista brewed special macchiato chocolate energy, the most expensive energy that you could possibly buy, because it's where it needs to be on your trip and it's very high power. So that's the premium we're paying. Now, if we look at how much this trip would have cost in a gas car, see if I can get my columns there, at $3.40 per gallon average, which I looked up before, and 28 miles per gallon for an average SUV, I would have had to buy 513.5 gallons at a total cost of $1,746.02. Compared to what I did pay, I had a savings of 26.84%. Even buying the most expensive electricity possible, I still saved almost 27% on my overall energy costs on this trip. And that's nothing to sneeze at. That's really good. Now, if we pull down the next group here, we do a little math. In 1 gallon of gasoline, there are 36,650 watt hours of energy. That's a lot. Gasoline is incredibly energy dense. That's why you can go so far on a tank of gas. Batteries that you find in electric cars are not very volumetrically dense. We're not there yet with an equivalent to gasoline. Now, if we look at how many watt hours per mile the car took, it was about 275. Some EVs get 250, some get 300, but we're right in this area. That means with this mileage and those number of watt hours per mile, I used almost 4 million watt hours of energy, which turns into be 107.89 gallons of gasoline equivalent for the entire trip. Now, what does that mean? Because the electric drive system is so efficient, 80 to 90% efficiency from putting an electron into the battery to spinning the wheel. The car got 133 miles per gallon equivalent, as opposed to the average SUV, which gets 28 miles per gallon. So you're seeing some things at play. Gasoline is very energy dense, and that's in the favor of gasoline. But electric vehicle drivetrains are insanely efficient, and that benefits EVs. Gasoline cars are only about 20% efficient. It's most of what they do is make heat. And you've seen that before. If you've ever put your hand on a hot gas engine, all they do is make heat. Only 20% of that energy goes to actually spinning the wheels. Given this miles per gallon equivalent, I saved the equivalent of 405.64 gallons of gasoline, as opposed to driving an average SUV. So that's pretty good. Now, the last analysis we'll do is, what if I took this trip, but I pretended that I was charging at home? Now, Nashville's kilowatt hour summertime cost, I looked this up. If you take this 10 cents per kilowatt hour, you multiply it by the number of watt hours that I used, I would have paid $407.25 to the home Nashville electric utility. But what I really paid was $1,277 because we're buying double latte electricity, and it means I paid just over 3 times the cost of home retail electricity for charging up on my trip. So there is a significant penalty in terms of buying supercharger electricity versus buying home electricity. But again, sorry for harping on this, but you're paying for them being where you need them on your trip, and you're paying for them to absolutely pump the energy into your vehicle so that you can get out and go quickly. If I tried to charge this at home, it would be 8 to 10 hours, basically an overnight charge to fill up the tank. And that's the end of my analysis. So in conclusion, I hope I've shown you that the Tesla supercharging network is the most convenient, fast, and easy way to road trip in an EV, and it's even cheaper than the same trip in a gas car. What more could you ask for? Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. This is a complex topic, so I'm sure I haven't made everything perfectly clear. Take care and dream about Tesla superchargers. As I was filing the script after a couple of months of spreadsheet analysis and writing, one of my favorite Tesla news channels, called Now You Know, released a video called "It's the Superchargers, Stupid." They've got frankly better production values while discussing this topic, but I hope you'll find my analysis valuable too, and I encourage you to watch it. I put the link down in the description. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to feed the algorithm and do all the YouTube things. Take care and see you next time.